Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks are back at SIUH Community Park July 7th to the 12th for a 6-game series against the High Point Rockers. Tonight, first pitch is at 6:30. It's Thirsty Thursday with $5 Bud and Bud Light drafts. Friday, July 10th, first pitch is at 7 p.m. May the Force be with you on Star Wars night with post-game kids glow around the bases with special lightsaber training packs.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
I mean, I beat the living daylights out of Mamdani on Friday with the whole Little Italy thing, but no one has beaten him up more than me since day one. You know that. I mean, at one point they had to apologize. I revoked that apology for calling him a jihadist, a terrorist, a socialist, a Marxist, a communist, and a cockroach. I revoked that apology because there's nothing I can say bad about this guy that isn't true. Like I said on Instagram a few days ago, which went viral, he's not just the worst politician in my lifetime, and if God is good to me, I'll be 60 in April. He's the worst person. He's garbage. So you could just imagine how excited I was to watch Robert Davi's video. How great was that?
It was awesome.
Every Italian American should spit on him. If I was here, I'd spit on him. That's the type of stuff I want to see. These pussies in New York that dance around it. Oh, he's still our mayor. He won fair and square. Shut up. He's a lowlife. He's now, by the way, that map the other day wasn't just the Italians he left out. He left out the Jews. He left out the Greeks. He left out the Irish. He left out the Germans. He hates everybody. Why anybody would go out of their way to make an argument with this guy makes no sense unless you're radical Islam. So Davi took it a step further. Now, I've done one movie with Robert Davi, Inside Man, Danny A., the true story about the Gemini Lounge. But he's a phenomenal actor. He's also a great New Yorker. And if you read Errol Lewis this morning, that racist from New York One, he's also on CNN, big fat black racist. He wrote this in the Intelligencer this morning. The mayor's approach has been successful enough to scare off any credible local political opponents. 3 critics who have announced they are considering a run against Mamdani in 2029 are John Schell, a retired NYPD chief of department, comedian Michael Rappaport. So he didn't say anything bad about those guys. Now here's a third one. And WABC radio host Sid Rosenberg, a bigot. He called me a bigot. This lying racist, a bigot, who recently had to apologize for calling the mayor an America-hating, Jew-hating, radical Islam cockroach during one of his on-air rants. And again, I revoked that apology. Now it turns out that Robert Davi may want to come back to New York and run for mayor himself. So here he is, the amazing actor, but more importantly, my good friend, Robert Davi. Robert, good morning, pal. How are you?
Good morning, Sid. Great to talk to you and weigh in a bit on what's happening in my wonderful city that I was born in and raised in, and now see being destroyed by a Marxist, socialist, communist. And this was prefaced, Sid. Let me give some background because people wonder. My political mentor, one of them, was a guy named David Horowitz. His family in the 50s were communists. He was a communist. He became part of the Black Panthers. And in the 70s, he saw the corruption. He saw the lying. He saw what it did. He had a change of heart and became one of the most vibrant conservative political thinkers. And he was out in Hollywood. And he would give lectures. And he would meet the greatest, Victor Davis Hanson. I would introduce people like that at these thing called the Wednesday Morning Club. And we would discuss politics. David wrote a book called Unholy Alliance in 2000, early 2000s. Radical Islam and the American Left. And then Arianna Fallaci, a left-wing journalist from Italy, who wrote a book called Interview with History in the 60s. She wrote a book called The Force of Reason, where she coined the term Eurabia. And there's nothing against, as I said in my rant, and I say, look, I've played all kinds of characters. In 1988, I played a Palestinian, Sid. That Alan Dershowitz was the technical advisor. It was a courtroom drama with myself as the Philistini. Sam Waterston was the prosecutor, and Ron Liebman, the great actor, was the Jewish defense attorney that the government put in to defend my character, Salim Ajami. I played an Orthodox Jew in 2024 in a film called Bardiov, produced by a 90-year-old Holocaust survivor.
That was a great movie.
And when I did the great film,
Yep.
an important film, historical, true story, and when I did that film in 1988, I played the Palestinian. I went to the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles, spoke to Rabbi Head, because I did not have an understanding of the full Palestinian issue. I then went to the Syrian. He put me in touch with the Syrian mosque. I went and I spoke to them. Now, let me tell you something. When that film came out, it got rave reviews. It was produced by a man named George Anglin, who produced The Ugly American and was Brando and Paul Newman's partner. Intelligent, highly intelligent guy. And the last script of Levinson Link, who wrote Columbo and other things. They were brilliant writers in America. And the people, they said to me, they said, don't worry, play it, because stories have to be told. This is what they said. Now, it wasn't like, oh, you have to play a Palestinian. No, they understood the empathy and the understanding of the Palestinian situation. In the 1990s, Clinton went with Arafat, and I forget who the prime minister was. They had 98% of what they wanted. 98%. And Arafat said, I have to make a phone call. He came back and said the deal's off.
Yeah, you know why? Why? And by the way, when you bring that up, I'm glad you did, because Bill Clinton brought that up, weeks ago. And what that shows you is, for all these people out there that cry every day about the lovely, innocent Palestinians, and I'm sorry, for me, it's not a gray issue. It's black and white. There's one side that's been victimized. That's my side, the Israelis. And the Palestinians, they've been the ones blowing up Sparrow's pizzerias, blowing up buses, aiding Hamas October 7th. My opinion. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
my opinion. They're the least sympathetic people. But the point is, that proved to you when Arafat was given all these opportunities to take land all over Judea and Samaria, which other people call the West Bank. He didn't want it. You know why? It's not about the land. It's about killing Jews.
What it is, it's about that overall philosophy. And the other interesting thing, another part of that story, is that in 1994, I went to Jordan, and I spoke to King Hussein, the father. And I did a film there. And I said, I'd like to create a school where the Jews and the Arabs can work together creatively. I says, because the codus of being understanding stories and telling stories with each other, I says, would bring more for the area than all the bullets in the world. And I wrote an article in Breitbart several years ago saying, why isn't the Gaza Strip like Disneyland? And at that time, I said to him in 1994, the King Hussein of Jordan, I says, there's so much Arab money. Put $50 million. They said, because they approached me to teach an acting class in Jordan. I said, I'd like to start a school in this area where Jews and Arabs can work together creatively to tell stories that share their culture and understand the working and the storytelling can be more important. I said, why isn't the Gaza Strip, with all the money in the Middle East, why isn't the Gaza Strip like Disneyland? It's a beautiful piece they could have made it beautiful. Why? What happened? Now, you talk to people, they blame the Jews. They say, well, Israel will let them do that. That's not true. For some reason, they want to keep the oppressor, and it's part of a Marxist socialist philosophy. They did it in South America. They infiltrated the religions, the Marxists. They did it with Catholicism. Tim Kaine, who ran with Hillary Clinton, went to South America, undermined Reagan with the liberation theology, where the Marxists came into the Catholic Church, and they're still around. To infiltrate Marxism, communism into society. And the youth today, I don't just blame Mandami. He's a voice. His father was a Marxist communist. His father got his education in America because we paid for it. The Kennedy Foundation and our government helped pay for his father's education. Mandami, who hates America now, or who wants to change America. His father makes $200,000 to $300,000 a year as a teacher in Colombia. He made $10,000 or $15,000 in Africa when he was a teacher. The father, God bless him, soul, and the mother, successful people. And Mandami can blow off the Italian American, the Jews, the Irish, the rest of that community that built this country, built New York City, fell off of those towers when they were less than 100 Muslims in the country at the turn of the 19th century. And my grandparents came from Italy, Naples and Sicily. And we were taught the 1906, all the people that are crying about victimology. 1906, the New York Times, an article said the Italian was lower and dirtier than the Negro. But you know what? We were never then told, hey, you're victims. No, they said this is America. Speak of the English. This is America. My grandfather enlisted in the U.S. infantry, World War I, critically wounded 3 times. Went back into theater each time, got 3 Purple Hearts and an Oak Leaf cluster. My dad, the day after Pearl Harbor, and all my uncles, World War II, Navy. His ship was torpedoed. He was 3 days in the water on a raft. They did this, and this current generation that is coddled, that has been infiltrated in the universities. The universities are subversive, and they take people from other countries that have Marxist ideologies, give them scholarships, and even in our own country, I've seen it happen in Los Angeles, where very bright kids are picked early on from leftist families, given scholarships to Harvard and Yale and Princeton and other places, to now, furthermore, this dialectical materialism and be able to infiltrate society by appealing to emotions and color. We never felt color. My first film was with Sinatra. I sing the songbook. I just had a big concert in Connecticut, 2,000 people. The songbook, Sinatra was one of the first artists to come out against anti-Semitism and racial bigotry of all kinds, because he understood the Italians, we were spit on. There were 1886 more lynchings of Italian Americans than anyone else in New Orleans in 1886. So I hear this Mandami ignoring Little Italy. When my grandfathers, they came to Harlem off the boats, they had relatives in Little Italy that they stayed with, because those immigrants, you had to stay at a house that somebody had an address for you. You had to have some money. You had to have a physical a certificate of health, and you had to get a job. Today, you come in, and you guys, I did a film, it's look, after almost 50 years in this business and traveling all over the world, Sid, and seeing the world and understanding the world and reading about certain things, I understand the propaganda, the agitation propaganda which Mandami throws off with that smile, and the rest of the left does. They accuse us. It's that rules for radical garbage that we all know about, but they don't teach it. They don't teach fairness in the universities. So these kids get scholarships, they go in there, and then they affect their parents. And immigrants come over, some of them are wonderful, hardworking still. But we were taught, speak of the English.
Yep.
We weren't allowed to speak Italian. They spoke it in the house a little bit.
Right.
But learning the English. And the same thing with the Mishpukas, the Jews, the Irish. You know, it was a thing of, embrace this country. Love this country.
Yeah, they don't do that. They don't assimilate. They have no interest in doing that. About 30 seconds to go, Robert. I got Norm Coleman. I've got Sean Hannity. I've got Nancy Mace. A whole bunch of others stopping by. Were you serious when you said that you would consider coming back to New York and run for mayor?
Absolutely. If it made sense. Look, and I understand the demographic over there is crazy, but I believe that if people got educated, and you have to realize that there are people there that have homes, that have rents, that there are people living in their homes, and they don't have to pay the rent. They don't have to pay the rent. People, these landlords, they're not slumlords. I was in buildings that were beautiful, and people weren't paying the rent, and they were just letting it go. And the courts, the corrupt courts of New York City, just pass it down the thing. And then Davi wants this free and that free and the other thing free. No, look, I believe in help. You need help. You need assistance. But you need to pull yourself up, and people hate hearing that. I'm sorry to take the time. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, before I let you run, just so you know, my dear friend, the great actor and comedian Michael Rappaport, he'll be in these studios tomorrow. He has also talked about running for mayor. But you do know that because he's been outspoken pro-Israel like you are, Robert Davi, and anti-Mamdani, that he can't really find an acting job these days. Aren't you worried that if you, in fact, do something like this, that you, too, will be branded a traitor by your friends in Hollywood?
Look, I did that because I supported Trump. I was the first person who ran on Breitbart. The day he came down the escalator, I said he was going to win, and why. because I've written for Andrew Breitbart was my friend. I've written for him since 2009. I talked about immigration in 2010. I met with McConnell. Let's do something about immigration now. And look at my writings on Breitbart, Robert Davi, author Breitbart. I've hit every hot button, Sid, that you can imagine. When Obama renamed Mount McKinley, I says, this is the beginning of statues coming down. This is the beginning of our history being more erased.
Yep.
And it was right. And a couple of years later, what I said in that article happened. So anyway, I was a Trump supporter when Ben Shapiro hated him. Everybody hated him. Mark Levin didn't like him.
That's true.
There were guys. Yes,
I
Mark
didn't like
Levin
him. I voted against him in 2016. I voted for Hillary Clinton. Now he loves me. So
there you go. Well, I said he was going to win, and why? The day he came down the escalator, and a lot of my Hollywood friends, even the conservatives, were laughing at me. I said, and then every time they counted Trump out, I wrote another article, why they're wrong. And I turned out to be correct on this, because you feel the nation when you.
Yep.
I'm just a working class guy. My dad worked 3 jobs, Sid. He worked 3 jobs. I didn't have no silver spoon. I got scholarships. I worked my butt off. I didn't know anyone in the business. Nothing to start. I had a dream. That was it. And the dream, my grandparents brought us here to America to have that dream, and you can have it. But you got to work for it and love it and embrace the country. Yes, there are problems, but love the country. And then Dami's got to stop his nonsense to New York. New York is a great city. I remember before Rudy Giuliani was there, Sid, you couldn't walk on Broadway. I did stuff on Broadway. Women were being held up at gunpoint.
Yep.
The crime, the disrespectful police. Giuliani comes in, cleans up New York City. And I got to say, it's not going to be a popular thing. But when the mobs were on the streets were safer.
Totally true.
Because it was a place you could go.
Totally
now
true.
The police, right? The police, they've been stapled. Their hands have been stapled. Their power's been deballed.
Right.
By people like Mendami.
That's why I ended my video on Friday, which again went viral. Not as viral as yours, because yours was amazing. But I ended it with, quote, "Where's the mafia when we need them?" Robert Davi, you're brilliant. You're great. And I love you. And keep coming back on this show because you're really smart, Robert Davi. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Sid.
God bless you. The great actor, Robert Davi, who's clearly a brilliant man on top of his great acting. Robert Davi, right here on Sid and Friends in the Morning.
Thanks for listening to Sid and Friends in the Morning. You can hear Sid and Friends in the Morning weekday mornings at 6. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?